understanding that perceptions are navigating functions. What we see is dependent on where we are determined to head. As what makes itself manifest to us, even in the realm of fact, are pathways forward and impediments to that progress, with everything else relegated to the realm of irrelevance and invisibility. This is equally true of what we think. Thought enables us to navigate in abstraction before embarking on our real-world adventures. What makes itself manifest to us when we question and receive a corresponding revelation are therefore the abstract equivalents of orienting, directional perceptions. We admit to our insufficiencies in relation to our goals and priorities and ask ourselves the questions which, if answered properly, would move us closer to our desired destinations. Lurking behind all such admissions and questionings, implicitly, if not explicitly, is our sense of final destination and our ultimate priority. This is the spirit that occupies the peak of the mountaintop, or the ever-receding pinnacle of Jacob's ladder. That is the God we worship, however unconsciously, the spirit that guides our perceptions and shapes our emotions, as thoughts can and do make us feel. And, most terrifying, the source that answers when we knock, ask, and seek. Matthew 7:7-8. Thus, if we are aiming, however insentiently, at something other than what is highest, something other than what is highest will produce the revelations that we are seeking. Imagine it this way. Every choice of destination has its reason, its motivation. The pathways to destinations aimed at by motivations that are resentful, immature, self-serving, bitter, and vengeful, murderous, genocidal, deicidal, will be demarcated by spirits with those natures if you pray, think, toward improper ends. Then you will be answered by demonic voices. Carl Jung noted our generalized proclivity to succumb in the most uncritical way to the slightest possibility of finding some kind of answer or certainty. Jung was describing a form of willful blindness. Later, psychologists rediscovered this tendency as the availability heuristic, the proclivity of a perceiver or thinker to judge the credibility of a claim by how quickly and easily it sprang to mind. With the psyche so susceptible to revelation and so disinclined to question what emerges, post-intuition critical evaluation is of crucial importance. We must be willing to let counterproductive ideas die. That is the sacrifice that most truly is critical thought itself. That sacrifice means that our ideas can perish, so that we do not act them out and perish. Critical thought, the death, however painful, of our ideas, however cherished, is a substitutionary sacrifice, the eradication of a part instead of the whole. As Christ insists, "And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell." Matthew 5:29-30. The process of thought is akin to the logos, also because it is dialogical. The Russian linguist Lev Vygotsky believed that the ability to think semantically was the replication of dialogue within the mind of a single individual. That for all intents and purposes, thought constituted the abstract internalized argument between different avatars. A single mind can house many personalities. This is a truth particularly evident in our dream states, when different personalities literally appear on the imaginative scene, complete with capability of independent action and discourse. The same thing is true of the human ability to imagine fictional characters, or, more directly, the possible actions, attitudes, and reactions of other living people in abstract contemplation. The ability to hold internal dialogue, even between intensely competing personalities, so to speak, is apparently an ability that can be honed and taught. Socrates may have fostered precisely that ability, first and foremost among known human beings, formalizing, clarifying, and transmitting the technologies of thought, giving rise to philosophy as such, literally teaching people to think on their own, or at least to think far more efficiently, rather than to rely unquestionably on revelation or interpersonal argumentation. He accomplished at least this much in the course of his famous dialogues. Every idea that is alive, and that is every idea that announces itself as truly worthy of consideration, expresses itself not as a mere description, but as a personality, with an aim, a viewpoint, a world gathered around it, and a full panoply of emotional responses and associated ideas. Dialogue is the battle between the personality of various ideas. The internal dialogue that is thought is the war between competing personalities in the theater of the imagination, and the death of the losers, complete with the pain that such death by necessity entails. This process of warring idea personality within is no different than the war of the gods in heaven, played out on the broader communal scale. It is merely that war playing itself out locally in the psyche of the thinker, and then in the imaginations of those affected by his thought. It is in this manner that the logos of the individual, the process of his consciousness, establishes and revitalizes the cosmic order. The need for trial by fire is further exemplified by way of analogy in the key alchemical idea, in sterquilinis invenitur. Literally, in filth it will be found. Alternatively, that which you most need to find will be found where you least want to look. The greatest challenge to what is and what should be, by consensus and tradition, is always to be found in what is least familiar and most frightening. Residing, as it does, at our weakest psychological point, it is also very likely contaminated with willful blindness. We are likely to leave unfamiliar that which is most daunting. This is why treasure and the maidens that are truly the greatest treasure are by universal agreement guarded by dragons, and also why it is sacrifice that pleases God, as the encounter with something truly new in the attempt to rise requires the abandonment of all that currently blocks movement forward. This often necessitates the sacrifice of that which is most loved. It is much easier to understand the terrible demands so often put forward by God in this light. Everything must be offered to that which is highest, for perfection to make itself manifest, in earth as it is in heaven. Matthew 6:10.